Okay, welcome back. Here's round, I don't even know, five. Um, Today what I'm going to do is model a table similar to this. So the table I'm going to model is slightly different. The legs will stick through the top. It won't be around the top. The top won't have that little apron around it. But otherwise, that's a reasonably accurate portrayal of the table I'm going to model. And I'll show you a few little tricks. And otherwise, this tutorial is all about you flexing your investigative skills. So I'd like you to find a table to model. Keep it fairly simple. Unless you want to drive yourself crazy, don't do angled legs. I can show you a trick to taper the legs. In fact, remind me, I'll taper these legs at the end. Um, but otherwise, I wouldn't recommend that you do anything in terms of angled legs, although, you know what, if you want to try it, go for it. So the reason I chose this particular table, square legs, I'm going to go 1.5 inches square. I will keep the thickness of those cross braces to probably 3/4 of an inch. I will show you the through mortise because it's interesting, both into the top and through the legs. Um, so anyways, that's what we're doing today. But find your own table. It doesn't have to be this one. Um, Figure out a rough height. Sometimes you'll frequently find dimensions listed on the internet for particular pieces of furniture. Um, Give it a shot. So I started out with a rectangle, or a rectangle made a square, 1.5 comma 1.5, and I'm going to push that to, I'm just going to go 24 inches. Okay. So there's the start of my table. I will be changing the diameter for the top. I'm going to make it, let's make it a 1-inch square. So I want to go in 0.25, and then I'll push pull that. I'm going to push pull it 1 inch, and that's going to be thicker than the top that I'm going to use. You know what? We can play around. We can make a chamfered edge. I might worry about that at the end. This is pretty useful. Triple click G. I'm calling it leg. Now what I will do is make that through mortise. So I don't know if you can see towards the left side here. I'm sorry that it keeps changing, but towards the left side you can see that tenon sticks out. So what I'm going to do is edit that. I'm just going to put that, I don't know, let's go 8 inches off the ground. Okay. So I'm just going to come up 8 inches off the ground. I'm also going to give myself a 1/2 inch over. So I'll bring the tape measure tool over 1/2 inch. I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Let's make it 2, 0.5. Push pull that all the way through. I'm going to limit myself to that edge so that I have a hole all the way through the edge. Okay. I'll get rid of those guidelines because those can be just a little bit interesting, and exit the edit. Okay, so I've got a leg. I'm going to move that leg. I'm going to move it over by 12 inches. I might move it a little bit further eventually, but let's see what that distance is. 13.5. That'll work out. That'll work out. So I've got a pair of legs. What I'm going to do is actually draw that piece that goes between them. So I'm going to draw that piece that goes between them, and this is a little bit weird. I'm going to go 3/4 of an inch and 2.5, so 0.75 comma 2.5, and I'm going to move that. So I'm selecting it, I'm moving it, 1/8 of an inch to the left, so 0.125, and then 1/4 of an inch up, so 0.25. And that should be centered. I'm going to push pull it, and this is where working with components is really nice. So I'm just going to group that. I could call it cross brace. It's all good. What am I going to do now? I'm going to edit it. I'm going to draw a rectangle here. I'm going to push pull that all the way through to this side. And I'm actually going to bring that out by 1/16. Craftsman Furniture frequently had 0.0625, frequently had tenons that went through plus a little bit. So if I take this piece and I move it out of the way, you'll notice that it has 2 tenons sticking out the end. I'll hit escape. Now, this is a useful thing for me. This is pretty useful. And I'm going to take this and copy rotate it. Before I do that, I am going to find the center of the top of this piece. And the reason that I'm going to do that, I'm waiting for the snap to midpoint to appear. That was too far. There it is, snap to midpoint. And the reason I've done that is I'm going to use the rotate tool. So by rotating from the center, I will keep these 2 pieces, concentric. I'll keep the pieces concentric. Now that's not really useful to me, but if I hit Control, I end up with a second pair. So that's kind of what I'm working with. The nice thing about this being a center point too is when I go to hit C and make my circle, I'm actually making my circle with a 7.5 inch radius. You'll notice if you look close enough that the circle is not really a circle, it's a segment. The reason that SketchUp does this is it makes it really easy. By keeping the number of faces down, by not having that be a true circle, it allows the program to navigate through without having to do a ridiculous amount of math. So that's centered on those legs, and what I'm going to do is move it up. Okay, so I want to move it up. I'm going to grab the bottom of the top to do that. And the reason I'm grabbing the bottom is when I hold the Shift key, I don't know if you'd notice, but it's constrained on the blue axis. So I can come over to the side of a leg. Oops, let me just pan down. By the way, I was panning with the center mouse button and the left button. I hit Shift, I constrain myself onto the blue axis, and there it is. So the scale's off a little bit. My legs are maybe a little too long, but you know how to edit legs. If I want to make it look fancy, I will edit that circle and just set up little lines here so I know that that's an area where I can work. If I want to move that component, I'll move it 10 inches in one direction, or 12 inches or 20 inches, so I can bring it back later. So I'd edit that, I'd push pull that through. Anyways, the idea is go ahead, find a table design, and try to model it. So that's it for this time. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, let me know. Oh, I forgot to fix this. Okay, so I did mention that I would taper the legs. The easiest way to taper, the absolute easiest way to taper, is to edit that leg. I'm going to take this bottom line, don't know if you can see it, and I'm going to move copy it. Just going to move copy it up 6 inches. And so I've basically created a crease there. So I've created a place that we can then change or pivot around. So if I take this and move it, I hit Shift. When it shows me the the green, I'll hold the Shift. Let me zoom in there. There it is. And you can enter a specific amount that you want to taper it. Now, here's a little trick. You'll notice that the two back legs are tapered correctly. The two front legs are not. If I right click on this, go flip along, let's see what happens with the components red. That did nothing. So I'm going to right click, flip along, components green. That fixed it. Right click here, flip along, components green. So flip along is a great tool if you need to make a mirror image of something. Anyways, there you go. Find your own table, figure out some measurements. I'm not happy with the scale of this, but I can shorten the legs really easily, or I can make it a bigger distance apart. Anyways, that's it. Enjoy it. Find a table, design a table, and don't worry about getting the measurements perfect. Approximate measurements are totally fine. See you later.